And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to round number 11 of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season. There is the logo. Apologies there for that little snafu there. We're doing something a little bit different on the technical side, just displaying the broadcast a little bit differently, and unfortunately it was not set up in preparation, but we're all good now. We just had a few issues there, but nothing all too harmful. So we are now good to go. We are ready for our 11th round of the season tonight, coming to you from the virtual Tsukuba Circuit. The Tsukuba Circuit being in Shimotsuma, Japan. Hopefully I pronounced that right. But it's one of the more interesting tracks in all of iRacing. The shortest road course we'll go to all season. Very similar to a karting track in a lot of ways. So for those of you that come here from a karting background, used to watching some of the people in this series from their karting endeavors back at home or things of that nature, well, those guys are certainly going to have, you could argue, an advantage tonight. I will not show my face, but I am, as always, your commentator, Marshall Crocker Jr. I don't quite have my logo set up properly there, so we can't do that as usual, but we can put up your track map very quickly before we go to your qualifying session, which is just about to begin in a moment. Here is a picture of the Tsukuba Circuit for tonight's race. It has, I believe, 9 corners, if memory serves, so not a very tricky track. Sorry, 10, I should say. You can see there on the top left of your screen that the straightaway on the top left of the diagram, that is the front straightaway, and then you can see the archer there for the front stretch. Turn 1 is a very tricky right-hand hairpin with kind of a kink there at the end of it so that it almost has 2 apexes, serving as the first corner of the track with the pit exit lane merging right at its apex. It's a very interesting corner. It can lead to some chaos in longer races, but hopefully we won't have to worry about that tonight. And then you can see there the rest of the layout, a couple hairpins. Hairpins are quite frequent here at Tsukuba. The track has 4 of them, certainly the most of any iRacing track of this sort of length. So it's an interesting layout, and we'll get more accustomed to it from a different angle as we go to your action on screen. There are your qualifying times just about to be put up. Guys are getting ready to set their times, but before we do that, while we have a moment, we are just going to show you the championship points heading into tonight's race. We got more to show you, but for now we're just going to focus on the basics because we're a little bit behind schedule. Here are the point standings heading into tonight's race. Now, of course, as you guys will know, if you've been here with the broadcast for a while, there are 2 championship point standings. There are the overall championship points, and then there are the drop race championship points. So the drop race points are the points specifically concerning the championship standings with 2 drop races added, those being the 2 worst races of the season for every driver in the series. So that may be something like maybe a race that you missed, maybe a race that you spun out in. It's all about, just the races that didn't go so well for the drivers, so it takes away your worst and only focuses on your best. So in those standings, we have different points, but this is just the overall point standings. Logan Pacza is in the lead by a considerable margin now in the overall points after his win last week at Iowa with 442 points to Andrew Bedrosian's 387. Max Preston in third with 320, and then a considerable battle there in the midfield between Trevor Anderson all the way down to, you could say, even Caleb Campbell, Rich Foligno. Quite a close battle in that mid-200s points range. Logan Pacza is just about to run his lap, so we're going to hurry through this, but there is the drop race points. So those are the points including those races that are dropped. This is the standings that determine the actual championship. So Logan Pacza is still in the lead in this board as well, with 386 points to Andrew Bedrosian's 357. Max Preston still with 320 here, so with the drop race points, he is much more competitive in the title hunt than he was in the others. Same with Trevor Anderson, who missed last week's race, so he will have an increased points total now as a result of that. Carl Dronke, Tim Salvatore, David Pacza, Marshall Crocker, Caleb Campbell, and Rich Foligno round out your top 10 in the championship. And all the way down the board, you can see the rest of your names. And that is the championship standings. We just got to hurry through that because now we got to go to your live results here in qualifying at Tsukuba. So 2 minutes and 35 seconds into tonight's qualifying session. Logan Pacza already your pole sitter there with a 50.841, but he is just about to set an even better time as he comes across the line, a 50.538. The 50s are going to be the battlegrounds for the pole in tonight's race. I can guarantee you that right now, and a 50.5 is not a bad time whatsoever. I think he ran his best time of a 50.3 there in practice, so maybe a little bit more room to work with there for Logan. Marshall Crocker is going to run his time now. Tim Salvatore, who really unfortunate race for him last week. It was your pole sitter, and some early troubles put him behind the 8 ball for sure, but hopefully tonight will be a return to form for Tim Salvatore, and it is right now. He's going to go to 3rd provisionally in the qualifying standings, as he was one of 3 drivers to run in the 50-second range there in practice, the only other 2 being your championship leader Logan Pacza and Andrew Bedrosian sitting 2nd in points. Here is Logan about to run his 3rd time. He already has a 50.5, but he beat every sector on this lap. This is going to be a quick one. 50.459. Logan just continues to find pace. Andrew Bedrosian, his championship adversary, trying to find time there to catch up to him a little bit. Runs a 50.7, so he's going to come within 2.5 tenths. several more drivers running their times. Tanner Dignard's going to go into the top 5. He scored a top 5 in last week's race at Iowa, so definitely some precedent for Mr. Tanner Dignard to do well. Who is up next? Trevor Anderson after that is in 6th. Max Preston in 7th. Rich Foligno in 8th. Marshall Crocker in 9th. And David Pacza rounds out the top 10. Surely some of those times are going to change as we move on, but Justin Lewis is just narrowly behind Tim Salvatore there in 4th. Only 19 thousandths of a second down on him. Carl Drocki, I believe, will run his first time. The winner earlier this season at Indianapolis. His time will not count, it would seem. May have just been a pit outlap or something like that, but Logan was fastest of anybody in the first 2 sectors. Was slower than his personal best in Sector 3 and 4. Will that improve his time? It will not. He's going to stay in the 50.459s. Now Andrew Bedrosian's going to run his time. Looks like he will not improve. Oh, he will, just slightly. So going to get a couple tenths. Now only 1.8 tenths off of Logan Pacza. Still has some time to work with there in terms of growing up to the pole time. But Rich Foligno's going to run his lap as well. He's going to put himself up to 5th. Going to run in the 51 kind of mid 0.3.4 range. Marshall Crocker will improve his time as well, but he's going to stay 9th provisionally. Now he's going to drop down to 10th as David Pacza goes 9th, running just into the 52-second lap. So Carl Drocki is behind pace. Looks like this will not be a pull lap for him either based on his location in the sector. We're going to go to Andrew Bedrosian. Maybe going to go around a couple corners with him from a cockpit view just so we can see the track the way that Andrew sees it. As he comes through the final hairpin here, let's see if he can improve his time. Logan did. He put himself in a 50.434. Can Andrew improve? He cannot. He's going to stick at a 50.650, avoiding David Pacza as he exits the pits. Let's maybe go to Justin Luke, who's just finishing up his time. Trevor Anderson is going to jump to 5th, so not a bad time for the 25 whatsoever. Justin will run his lap, going to run a 51.160, so still just barely behind Tim Salvatore, but is definitely getting closer. Now it's going to go to Carl Drocki. The other drivers on track have not beaten their personal best sectors in either of the first 2, so we're not going to go with them, because presumably, unless they have a great end of the lap, not going to beat their time. But Carl Drocki is trying to set a fast time. He's at about 47 as he comes into the hairpin. Not a bad time. Probably won't put himself at the top of the leaderboard, but might bump himself up a couple spots. He was very quick this week in practice. We'll see if he can translate that into the race. He's going to go 10th provisionally, 1,000th of a second behind David Pacza, who is now just exiting the pits. So not a bad time for him. Logan Pacza cannot improve upon his lap. Andrew Bedrosian will not either. So guys are kind of stalled out. I guess this is kind of a good time to test, where guys are in terms of their tire wear. How long it'll take to get out of that peak area in terms of tire duration and the real race. Justin Lulick will jump up to 3rd, now putting himself into the 50s. Just narrowly, sorry, I should say a 51.24. So he's close. He's getting there within the 50-second range that only Logan Pacza, Andrew Bedrosian, and if you count practice, Tim Salvatore have been able to occupy so far. Tanner Dignard will run a lap, will not improve, but the 55 car, great race last week at Iowa Speedway. Now we are going to see a lap run from... Who was that in the background there? Carl Drocki. Apologies that I just realized. Sorry, the racing line is still on. I was using it to try to detect braking points pre-race, but it looks like I forgot to turn it off. So we'll turn that off before we go to your real event, just to make sure that is not clouding up our race. Andrew Bedrosian will improve his time a little bit, but still not enough to take the pole. Justin Lulick was provisionally fastest in Sector 1 there for just a moment, so the 7 car is finding pace. Will he improve upon his lap time? He's getting close, but no, he's still going to miss the top 2, so he's going to stay 3rd for the time being. Bunch of guys running laps. Rich Foligno jumps into the top 5. Max Preston jumps into 6th. The 6th car in the 6th spot. Seems kind of fitting if you ask me. Tanner Dignard will not improve. Neither will Marshall Crocker. Tim Salvatore may, though. He was in the top 3 momentarily. Can he put himself back in? Can the 91 car improve? He will not. 51.936. Not going to be enough to take that time. Carl Drocki doesn't look like he'll improve either, but Logan was fastest of anybody in the first sector. Will that translate into a better lap time? It will not. He's going to stay in the 50.4s, but that is not enough to beat his personal best. Andrew will beat his personal best, though. He's getting closer. He's now within almost exactly a 10th of Logan Pacza, so not far off that personal best time of the 16 cars. Only 2 minutes left in practice, though, or qualifying, I should say. Not a lot of time left. Both Caleb Campbell and Tim Salvatore were off there in turn number 5 in the hairpin there, so somebody off there as well. Looks like guys that are... getting into the wall or just parking on the side of the track and giving up, which says something about how tricky it can be to wheel even a clean car here around the Tsukuba Circuit. Marshall Crocker is going to run another lap. Doesn't look like he will improve upon his previous time. Let's look at Carl Drocki here in the number 38 car. He's going to come around the hairpin once again. He's on a faster pace than the lap he set earlier, so this could be a good one for him. Going to go, I think, 51.8, which should move him up a little bit. It will not. He's going to equal his previous time. Andrew Bedrosian, though, let's keep an eye on him. Has he moved up? He has not, but he's again getting closer, within 0.07 of a second off of Logan Pacza. So there is not much time separating your top two in the championship here in qualifying, and they're an easy over half a second clear of the rest of the field. So Andrew and Logan, they always find a way to do it. Rich Foligno, though, is currently sitting 5th, ran a personal best in 3 sectors. Just barely misses out on taking that 4th spot from Tim Salvatore, though he did come close. Let's go to the 15 car of Marshall Crocker, who's also running a good time. As he comes through the final hairpin corner. A little bit off pace as he comes off the corner, but it looks like he'll get it safely through. He's going to improve his time, but he's going to stay 11th for the time being. No other green sectors on the board here. Everybody running behind their personal best, so I think this is the point where the tires have just dropped off, and unless Logan and Andrew put together a superhuman lap like Logan just did, goes 50.389. Not crazy far in terms of extending the gap to Andrew, but it certainly does not hurt, so he will keep his time at the top of the board. David Pacza is going to run a lap as well. We'll see if he can move up from his 10th position he currently sits in right now. Still in 10th. He's not got to go far to move up past Carl Drunke, but he will not. He will not improve, but Justin Lilich will. Just a little bit, only to a 50.937, but that is enough to keep him in 3rd for the time being. Now he's going to pull off the track. He is done for qualifying. 58, 59, and 10 minutes. So at this point, any drivers that cross the line are done for the session, but they can finish the lap they are provisionally running. So Marshall Crocker will finish up his lap, will not improve. But Andrew Bedrosian, he ran the best sector of anybody all session in the first sector, ran worse than his personal best in 2 and 3. Can he improve and take his 6th pole of the season? No, he's going to go wide in the corner, tries to carry too much speed through. Great corner, almost loses the back end, but will not improve. Looks like as a result of track limits. I don't think the lap is quicker, but even if it was, track limits will mean that he will not be able to set a time. David Pacza will come into the pits. He was running a time and maybe just lost it there through the final hairpin, but regardless, he will not finish his lap. And Rich Foligno, I think the last guy running a full lap across the line, not enough to improve. He's going to go 5th and stay there. So, well, great session by everybody. Caleb Campbell also running a lap. Will he improve? He will not. He's going to stay in 12th provisionally. So that is that. 2 drivers who are here tonight did not run a lap in qualifying, including Jack Hillier and Manuel Guerra. Carl Drunke is still on track. I don't know if this is a legal lap time. I feel like it's been too long for it to still be. He runs a really good lap, actually. That was a very impressive time, but I don't think it'll count for his lap. No, we are done the session. So I'm going to drop away very quickly. We're going to drop away, fix the racing line there, and that being removing it. But we're going to be back in just a moment. So just bear with me, and we will be back momentarily. And we are back. Now that we've got everything fixed up and ready to go for tonight's race, just waiting for the field to grid and get on its way for tonight's event. Everybody's still gridding, so we're not ready to go quite yet, but there are your results for tonight's qualifying session. Logan Pacza taking what I believe is his 4th pole of the season with a 50.389, almost a 10th clear of Andrew Bedrosian in 2nd. Qualifying in the top 3, I think, for like the 9th or 10th time this season. Andrew's been great in qualifying. But Justin Lilich will round out the top 3. I think it ties his best qualifying performance of the season with a very respectable time in the 50s. Tim Salvatore will run 4th, trying to recover from last week. Rich Foligno sits there in 5th in the 99 car. Max Preston is on the outside of row number 3 in 6th. Then it's Trevor Anderson and Tanner Dignard in row 4 in 7th and 8th. Carl Drunke and David Pacza in 9th and 10th respectively. Marshall Crocker and Caleb Campbell there in 11th and 12th. Then Manuel Guerra and Jack Hillier, neither of whom ran a time, will round out tonight's field. Well, there you go. The lights on the pace car are off, so we have to take this down and get all your proper graphics up and ready to go. There we are. So as always, we're going to wait a little bit to put up the track map until we've gone a couple laps, but there are your drivers. Logan Pacza, your pole sitter. Andrew Bedrosian is outside. The pace car already on the pit road. Very short warm-up lap here, so not a lot of time for guys to warm up the tires, but we are about to go green here at Tsukuba Circuit for round number 11 of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season. Logan Pacza is on the gas pedal. Green flag here for the first time tonight. Andrew Bedrosian is going to settle in behind in the line. Justin Lilich will jump in front of Tim Salvatore. Max Preston immediately going to go by Rich Foligno, so no major moves for the time being. Everybody appears to be clean through corner number 1. do see a little bit of movement further back in the field. Max Preston will make the move on Rich Foligno. He has now cleared Rich. And then who is that goes around? Justin Lewick has gone around. Max Preston checks up to avoid. A number of drivers having to check up to avoid that incident. Justin Lewick has already gone around. Justin Lewick trying to get back up to speed. He does. Marshall Crocker's around. Yellow flag comes out. Just so much chaos on track that our race director, Vince, will have to make the call there and put the caution out immediately. So, well, let's go back and watch what happened there. Justin Lewick missing a considerable portion of his front nose. That was a little bit early to be missing that much of your car, so I'm not sure what happened to him. But let's go back and check the incident. So, see, this is him already gone around. Him and Tim Salvatore, I think, kind of got into it. Him and the 91 car were in some way involved. What is happening? There we go. So, this is coming out of turn number 1. You see Tanner Dignard already goes a little bit wide. Out of T1, so you see in the background, there is Tanner Dignard, kind of gets in the grass, but he was okay. But this is corner number 3. Whoa, Tim Salvatore just kind of chopping across the back there. Justin Lewick, maybe Justin braked a little bit earlier than he was expecting to try to counteract the cold tires. David Pacza was in some way involved. Is that in the background? I think Jack Hillier as well in that white livery that was around. And then Marshall Crocker Sr. as well on the exit of turn number 5, coming up to turn number 6 was also around. So, going to watch one more time just to see what happened. Going to go back a little ways. And guys got up to speed pretty quickly. It wasn't like guys were in a perilous situation for long. It was just, well, almost as soon as we got going, we saw an incident. So here is looking at the back of Justin Lewick's car as he comes up to turn number 5. There's the 91 of Tim Salvatore. You see very little contact there. It wasn't a big hit or anything. It was just so little can be enough to send the car around here at a tight track like Tsukuba. And well, he got back up to speed, and so did Tim Salvatore. So I'll be interested to see where they funnel out as we return live to see what has happened since that collision. We'll have to wait and see where guys have funneled out. I believe we've had pit cycles already as the pace car drives down the backstretch. Guys just trying to figure out where they are in line and get situated for the next restart. Well, the first restart of tonight's race. I was curious to see how many we'd have tonight. I was hoping for a relatively clean affair as, well, we're a decent ways into the season. You'd expect that everybody would be on their best behavior and understand the car a little better and be in a better place to make good decisions. But really, that was just a case of, well, one small incident, the accordion effect can lead to many. But Logan Pacza, as the lights on the pace car stay on, so if I had to estimate, probably going to go green on lap number 5. A very quick laps here, both under caution and otherwise here at Tsukuba, being just over 2 miles 2 kilometers in total length, but 1.5 miles in miles, which is the length of most mid-range NASCAR tracks. So it's certainly not a very big track. We can run consistent 50, 51, 52 second laps here during the race. So that'll more than likely be what we see. But there is Logan Pacza, the 16 car with Andrew Bedrosian right behind. We can just talk about a few of your leaders getting ready to go for tonight's race. Logan Pacza, your championship leader, he won last week at Iowa. It was kind of a storyline going in that Logan, as good as he's been, as dominant as he's been all season, doesn't always have a tendency to win the ovals. I mean, Andrew won in his only win of last season in the Karts and Computers Season 2 when he won at Pocono. So he took that race. But I think every other oval race besides Pocono since, gosh, would have been like last October, before that even, has been Michael Krobach, who doesn't run full-time in this series, but he was kind of the guy taking all those wins away, and then, of course, he won the Karts to Computer Season 2 championship over Logan Pacza. I always plug the fact that you guys should go back and watch the host, so sorry if I spoiled that for anybody. But, yeah, Logan has always been more so the road course guy, but last week he found a way to get the win there at Iowa, and him and David were certainly making things work there. The father-son duo was having a great successful race there up front in their waving back and forth strategy that unfortunately came to an end after a caution mid-race. But Logan did what he had to do to come back, and on that final restart took the position from both Caleb Campbell and inevitably held off Andrew Bedrosian for the win, getting his 6th of the season. I do have a graphic somewhere that shows the winners this year, but unfortunately we'll have to either save that for the Facebook or put it up in next week's race. So that is your kind of spiel there on Logan Pacza before we go green. And then next, let's talk about Andrew Bedrosian, the guy who, well, he's had a great season at this point. He got his win finally a couple weeks back at Wilton Park after so many pulls this season, after so many successful events. But it took him a little while to find that final justification for all the effort he's been trying to get that win, and he finally got it there at Wilton Park in commanding fashion, I should add. beating Logan Pacza there in the number 5 car. So he's had a great year, but he just hasn't quite found that number 2 win yet this season. At Iowa, he came so close. Remember, about a 10th and a half off of Logan Pacza at the line. So tonight, you could argue maybe a revenge thing for Andrew Bedrosian. He wants that spot that he couldn't get last week. And justifiably so. I would say I would be in the same mindset if I were him. And right at the top 3, we'll go through your field in more detail later, but I believe the lights on the pace car are off, so we got some racing action to call. But for the time being, there is Mr. Max Preston sitting there in the number 6 entry. He's had a good season as well. He's sitting 3rd in points. He's very competitive with the 2 guys ahead of him. If he can get a win here tonight, that would be huge for his season. Put him right in the mix with Andrew and Logan, both of whom have kind of had a lock there on the top of the points all year. They've just felt like the championship battle to this point, but well, Max is tied with Andrew, and I believe, I think formerly Tim Salvatore, but I think it might just be him and Andrew now for second and top 5s in the series with 7. So he's had a great season at this point. Let's see what he can do with that 3rd place spot. He's moved up 3 spots since the start of the race. Remember, he qualified 6th, so Max has been finding pace to this point. Now he just needs a couple more positions to make his race even better. Before we go green, we're just going to very quickly show the positions gained by each driver throughout the field. In that very first stint, Manuel Guerra, the biggest mover, moving up 5 spots. Jack Hillier and Max Preston each moving up 3. But we're going to go back to your proper gap. We got a race to call. Mr. Logan Pacza, your championship leader, gets ready to go here. Here we go. Andrew very closely stuck in the back end of the 16 car, but they are on the gas pedal. Green flag here at the Tsukuba Circuit for round number 11 of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season as we rocket down to turn 1. Logan Pacza, as he comes through turn 1, very cleanly avoids Andrew Bedrosian. Andrew not really going to try to go for the send that very first lap, but Max Preston, right as we talk about him, goes around there in the background. He is dropping spots like a rock. The 6 car lets basically the entire field by, just the tiniest slip up in turn number 1. Plenty of time to recover, but that is not what you want to see if you were the 6th car of Max Preston. Now Rich Foligno sits 2nd, moving up into the podium spots as a result of Max's mistake. He's got Trevor Anderson behind him in 2nd. Now that's a battle with Trevor Anderson for 4th. That is Carl Dronke in the 38 car right behind him. Remember, won a race earlier this season at Indianapolis, so we know Carl has that success gene that we've seen through the rest of the season. So maybe this will be his night to get that 2nd win of the season, or at least put himself back in the podium spots. But keep an eye there on Tanner Digner there in the 55. He's not too far behind the 38 of Carl Dronke, I should say, whatsoever. He is making things work, but Justin Lewick goes by Tim Salvatore on the inside, coming down in the run down to turn number 1. So it didn't take much time for Justin Lewick to get that spot back on Tim Salvatore, who I believe passed him there on the very first restart. So good recovery there from Justin to get that spot back. Further back in the field, Max Preston will make his first move of his comeback on Jack Hillier, who's missing his front wing. Jack there in the 18 car. We have a bit of an exciting announcement in regards to next week's race that, if I can guarantee we don't have a pass in the next couple seconds, I will mention. But very quickly, as we head back to keep an eye on the lead battle between Logan and Andrew, Jack Hillier will be calling the race alongside me next week. He's coming out of the car and into the broadcast booth for our race at Silverstone next Friday. So we will have a new personality in the booth, so it'll be a pleasure to have Jack joining me, and I'll have a full-time, well, maybe not full-time yet, but we will have an official co-commentator for the first time in this series. So it'll be a pleasure to have him. Can't wait to get him in the booth. But for now, we got some racing to call. Logan Pacza continues to try to hold off Andrew Bedrosian, running about tit for tat through every corner. They don't seem to be alternating their lines from one another, so looks like they are comfortable sitting where they are for now, and maybe Andrew's just trying to plan his move long term and think a little bit more conservatively, think about the end result rather than just going for spots at the beginning, something that I think we've talked about that he's learned over the course of this season that might help him in his championship pursuits. Looking throughout the field, let's go to the Carl Dronke and Tanner Digner battle. I saw Tanner Digner in the background there go off this corner we're coming through here. I think it's turn number 8. A little ways back, he kind of washed out through that grass. You see Carl Dronke running through right now, so he was able to recover, though. No long-term issues there for Tanner Digner, but Justin Lewick is still trying to chase down that number 55 car. Remember, he qualified as high up as 3rd, so he was right there in terms of pace per lap with Logan Pacza and Andrew Bedrosian. So if he can find that pace again, might be able to make up the time he needs to get back into the top of the standings and get his 2nd podium of the season. But well, if he's going to do it, he's going to have to pass a couple cars, and here at Tsukuba, that can be easier said than done, certainly. Guys have started to fan out a little bit further back in the field. Jack Hillier, though, has come into the pits to repair his damage, and now the rest of the field is coming up behind him. Your 2 leaders, Logan Pacza and Andrew Bedrosian, not far behind, so the 18 car trying to do his best to run away, but no, it looks like Logan Pacza is just going to sneak by, same with Andrew Bedrosian, so Jack Hillier will become the first car a lap down in tonight's race, going to light your 2 leaders by in a very sportsmanlike fashion. Logan Pacza about to start lap number 9, so already a fairly considerable way through this race. Again, very short laps here at Tsukuba. A lap count that can more closely resemble that of an oval at a road course. May look weird, but I assure you it is just because of how short this track is. Now, this is the battle between Caleb Campbell and David Pacza here for 9th. Throw up the track map here while I remember, just to let you guys know where your favorite drivers are on track. Remember, the numbers correspond to their positions, not their driver numbers, as you can see there on the right. The driver numbers are their accurate numbers on their cars, as well as matching their car color, so you have a better idea of, in each shot, who your favorite driver is in terms of, driver livery. This is the battle for 9th. Caleb Campbell trying to hold off David Pacza and Marshall Crocker. Marshall Crocker scored a 3rd in last night's practice race, so he is finding his pace later on in the season. Maybe he'll be able to translate that into a top performance tonight. But for now, David Pacza is going to look to the inside through the hairpin on Caleb Campbell. He's going to lock up the inside tires a little bit, though, in order to get that car slowed down. But he makes the pass, so Caleb Campbell is going to give up the 9th spot to David Pacza. Jack Hilliard's going to let the field by, but Marshall Crocker, they're right behind Caleb Campbell, going to peek out a little bit into that final turn 10, turn 11 hairpin. But no dice as of yet, so Caleb Campbell will hold on to 10th for the time being. Looking up a little bit further in the field, though, this battle between Trevor Anderson and, well, arguably either Rich Foligno or Carl Dronke, depending on whether you're a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of person, because he's sitting comfortably in between the two of them. Justin Lewick, though, I see making the move there on Tanner Dignard a little ways back in that turn number 5 chicane, so nice move there, but from Justin Lewick, who has not only started to run away from Tim Salvatore, but has also gotten a few spots for his own efforts. Marshall Crocker in the 15 car has gone into that turn 5 outside wall in the hairpin. Let's check very quickly what happened to him. Never a good situation if you have an incident in this hairpin. This is where we saw our earlier caution. So this looks like a pass on Caleb Campbell. The two going side by side through turns 3 and 4 in that chicane there. Both giving each other room, but just carries a little bit too much speed there on the outside, trying to avoid Caleb. Great piece of racing there from the two of them to avoid incident to that point. Going side by side through the chicane here is never an easy feat at Tsukuba, and they found a way to, but unfortunately, it resulted in an incident in the end. Max Preston also making the move on Caleb Campbell, so he puts himself back into the top 10 after qualifying in 6th. Whoa, getting a little bit loose here at a turn number 2, but he finds a way through the 3 and 4 chicane. He's still sitting, I think, comfortably ahead of Caleb, so probably just going to try to keep that race pace and focus on getting away rather than defending, but he did lock up there and gave Caleb an opportunity, so maybe we shouldn't count this battle out after all. Max, though, got a really good run there through corners 6 and 7, now trying to take off, and as he runs through the final hairpin, has cleared him quite successfully. Back up to the leaders for a moment until we see another battle in the midfield for position. Logan Pacza, your race leader, continues to try to pull away from Andrew Bedrosian, who sits a pretty comfortable, probably 7/10 back. Here is your lap times per lap. Logan running the quickest lap of the race on lap 7 with a 50.702. Hasn't been able to beat that yet, but he's come close. Andrew was faster on lap number 10. Has been about a 10th slower every lap other than that, but that is such a close margin. These two guys, if you want to find two more identical fast drivers in any series anywhere, I'd argue you'd have a hard time finding guys more competitive than Logan Pacza and Andrew Bedrosian. They have just been incredible to this point in the season in terms of being able to equal each other, and they certainly push each other to new heights, and with lap times like that, it is paying off for them. This is Rich Foligno and Trevor Anderson, though. Let's compare their lap times, because Trevor Anderson ran slower than Rich last time by, but this lap I think has been a different story. Look at how close the guys from 3rd to 6th are. Everybody's packed up here as you come through the final hairpin. Rich gained a little bit of time there, cleared everybody a little bit out of turn number 10, but Trevor Anderson has got Carl Dronke in the 38 right on his back end, and the always aggressive Justin Lewick behind that. Carl Dronke ran about 6/10 faster than Trevor Anderson that last time by, so maybe with Rich having a little bit of trouble, maybe that's checking up Trevor Anderson, making it tougher for him to not allow Carl Dronke to have some space on track. So Carl almost checked up into Trevor Anderson, but the two were able to woe it up in time before turn number 5. And they will continue on. So Trevor Anderson is sitting in kind of a comfortable spot. Again, he hasn't really had any time to breathe because he's had a car right in front of him and right behind him basically every time I've gone to him on track. Keeping an eye a little ways further back, maybe Manuel Guerra might try to make a move on Caleb Campbell for that number 11 spot further back in the field. But for now, we got to stay with this because I feel like a move could happen here any moment if a guy is unfortunate enough to make a mistake. We're getting to that point on tires where it is a possibility. Manuel Guerra, though, as he comes through the final hairpin, will make the move here on Caleb Campbell. That is for the 11th position, so the 12 car passes the 11 car for the 11th position and swaps the two spots. So the little OCD convenience of having the driver numbers match the track positions has now changed, so Manuel Guerra will move up to 11th. Back to this battle, though, because this is the most entertaining thing happening on track right now. 4 guys. You could basically throw a blanket over this entire field, maybe a heavy-duty tarp. Certainly not much ground separating these 4 guys, but Jack Hillier might throw a wrench in the plan of these guys, though he does do a good job of moving off to the side. So the 4 guys from 3rd to 6th, they're not going to have any issues in continuing their little battle. Trevor Anderson getting nice and close to the back of Trevor Anderson, or to Rich Foligno, I should say, as we come through the turn 10 hairpin. On exit, might get the run he needs with the slipstream and make the move. Is going to get a better run off the corner, but it's a very short run up here to turn number 1. Trevor's going to go to the outside. Rich is going to have a little bit of an aggressive send there on the inside end of the corner, so he's got to watch getting back on the gas coming out, but he does so. Great job. Great piece of driving there by Rich Foligno to hold on to his podium position for now. This is a really fun battle. A couple names we haven't seen battling here most of the season involved in this battle for the final podium spot. So some great racing here happening early in tonight's race at Tsukuba. Trevor Anderson still doing his very best to make up the time to Rich Foligno. Let's go to maybe Justin Lewis sitting at the back of his field, this pack, I should say. Let's go to his gyro camera shot, just to give you a good idea of what he's looking at in his, forward sensors, you can say, otherwise known as his eyes. We're going to head to the 3 guys in front, all sitting still fairly consistent with their position from before. So we're going to go to take a quick break. We're going to stay on board with Justin Lewis and get an eye on his view. If we have a pass or anything major happen, I'll be sure to come back. But for the time being, we're going to throw it to Justin Lewis' camera, and we'll be back in just a moment. And back to normal commentary there after a brief break, and right as I do so, we got a battle here between Justin Lewis and Carl Dronke forming. You saw those 2 packs that were previously battling for effectively 3rd kind of split off there and made 2 separate packs, so now it's Justin versus Carl and Rich versus Trevor. And Justin Lewis, you saw peeking out there a little bit on the backstretch into turn number 10. Tanner Dingnard's getting involved too. Don't forget about the 55 car. He is right on the back end of Justin Lewis, number 7. So not much room for error on Justin's end of things. If he makes a mistake trying to pass Carl, could give the 55 the opportunity he needs. Further up in the field, though, Rich Foligno still able to hold off Trevor Anderson for the time being as we come down towards the turn number 7 hairpin. Sorry, turn number 8. I keep mixing up the corner numbers. Unfortunately, my track map I showed earlier did not have them, so it can be tough to memorize. Max Preston has given up a spot on track to David Pacza, and that's because he's in the wall. I was going to say, it didn't look like he was making any time on the track map, so for the second time tonight, Max Preston having a little bit of trouble there in the number 6 car. Still, though, I think he mostly kept it off the wall. Reasonably little damage. I don't really want to go to a replay just so we can keep an eye on this number 3 battle. But no damage for the number 6 car, Max Preston, so he chugs on. And if he can just stay ahead of Logan Pacza and Andrew Bedrosian, he can keep his lap, and in the case of a caution, he is by no means out of this thing. But back up to 3rd, this battle between Rich Foligno and Trevor Anderson continues. Same with this battle between Carl Dronke and Justin Lewis. So really just waiting for that one big moment, that one driver to get confident and think about a move. We haven't quite seen it as of yet, but I'd imagine it will be sooner rather than later that we see somebody get a little bit aggressive. Further up in the field, Trevor Anderson has made the move on Rich Foligno, and Rich Foligno is dropping like a rock. Rich Foligno's gone around. The number 99 car, looking for his first podium of the season, was having a great race to this point in that battle with Trevor Anderson. Let's see what happened to him. So this is the through turn number 7. This is the turn number 8 hairpin we're going towards. Trevor Anderson well back at the 99 car. He's not even close to him at this point. Just overcooks it a little bit in the exit right-hander there. Manages to keep it off the wall, though. Great piece of braking there by Rich Foligno. Gets back up to speed. Only loses as far as, 5 positions. Comes back on track in 8th, and that's where he sits live. So Not a bad recovery at all by Rich Foligno. Good to see he was able to get back up to speed that quick and continue on his push up the field. But that'll mean Trevor Anderson puts himself solely into 3rd place, and as Trevor is currently sitting 4th in points, definitely in the running there for the championship. It is good to see he is having success. Now Justin Luke side by side with Carl Dronke through the turn number 7 hairpin. Justin gets the spot on exit, but you got to think that Carl, with being that close, is going to want to use the slipstream there in the final hairpin through turn number 10. Justin Luke gets a little bit tight in the corner, but it's not going to matter. Carl, I think, had to check up a little bit to avoid, so all three of them get about the same run. Now coming up to turn number 1, he remains in front. Max Preston has left the race. He's left the session entirely, so not sure if he was having wheel issues or frustration, but frustration for Carl Dronke. The 38 car has gone around as well. This tricky Tsukuba track giving all sorts of drivers trouble. He keeps it off the wall, but that'll give Rich Foligno his spot back. Rich Foligno back into the 7th spot at least in his charge up the field. That'll mean that Trevor Anderson has an even easier path to maintaining his 3rd place, as he's even more clear of the guys behind than he was a minute ago. But now the battle becomes between Justin Lewick and Tanner Digner. This is for 4th. Two guys that, again, I don't think I've seen have a good battle together to this point in the season, so it'll be exciting to see the dynamic and the rapport these two can form. But very quickly, as we wait for something to happen on track, and something just did, is that Manuel Guerra, who's gone around, or at least he's given up the spot to both Marshall Crocker and Caleb Campbell. Got to keep an eye on this battle as well. This is the battle for 10th, the final top 10 spot. David Pacza is 11 seconds clear of this battle, so he is not really involved anymore. He is on his own race, but Caleb Campbell has gone around there. That hairpin, that turn 7, giving so many guys trouble tonight. I'm genuinely surprised, because not that it's not a tough corner, but would have thought it was very similar to both the turns 1 and 5 hairpins, which people do not seem to be having problems with to this point. So Caleb Campbell, unfortunately, as a result, is going to have to give up a spot to the 2 race leaders, those being Logan Pacza and Andrew Bedrosian, who continue their charge up the field. Logan now sits, as he was a few laps previous, 9/10 clear of your 2nd place driver in the championship, Mr. Andrew Bedrosian. Elsewhere in the field, trying to keep an eye on what else is happening here at the Tsukuba Circuit. Marshall Crocker and John Guerra. Now Marshall Crocker takes over sole possession of the 10th position with Caleb Campbell going around just a moment ago. So Manuel Guerra, the next closest guy to him on track, but again, seeing the pace and consistency that Marshall Crocker was able to hold yesterday in yesterday's practice race, I'd imagine it will be a tougher ask than most for him to have an incident that would give Manuel Guerra the spot. So Manuel's going to have to work for it. He's going to have to find pace and going to have to make up that time himself. Just going to take a very quick moment to mention, though, as we have a bit of a break in the action. Thank you, as always, everybody, for watching at home. It's always a pleasure to put these on, and there's certainly a highlight of my week, and at a track here like Tsukuba that, well, I've never put on a race here before. It's always exciting from my part, as somebody who loves racing, who loves putting on racing action for all of you at home, not just broadcasting, though the broadcasting is a really nice quirk, or perk, I should say. It's great to be able to put this on, and I hope you guys are all having a great time. If the graphics look any different tonight, just be sure to let me know. If it looks a little bit blurrier, it's a genuine possibility. I'm streaming my race footage a little bit differently, so if it's happening, just let me know. As always, you guys are my test audience, so I always want to make the series look and feel and be as entertaining as possible. So if that is happening or isn't, be sure to let me know in the chat. With that being said, let's look for another battle on track. Justin Lulick about 2 seconds clear now of Tanner Dignard, so he is comfortably ahead of your fellow driver. Manuel Guerra, though, has left tonight's race. Becomes the 2nd driver, as well as Max Preston, to do so, and neither, I think, hit the penalty point limit. So I'm genuinely surprised that he has left. You see, he's just on a straightaway. Not much happening. Don't think he got off track. And disappears. Just like that. Blink of an eye. So I'm going to assume internet issue. He's the only driver that comes to the series from overseas. He's back in the session now. So I'm not sure if that was just temporary or what. He's back on track. So, okay, well, my theories were instantly put to bed, and he is back on track in the 11th position. No damage or anything otherwise, so maybe just a brief blip in the action. I know that with my occasionally chaotic Wi-Fi situation, I can have some dropouts and latency of my own, so got to assume that's what happened to him. Now, this is interesting, because let's compare the lap times per lap from Justin Lulick to Trevor Anderson. Justin Lulick has been a full second quicker in the last 3 laps combined there in that number 7 car. He is finding time and making it work. That number 7 car is flying right now, and I mean, I'm really impressed with Justin Lulick, because after the early chaos that he had earlier in this race, and even earlier in the season, only scoring 1 podium to this point, which I say only 1 podium, but he's one of the quickest drivers in the field, of course, on the on-track in terms of real-life racing. Endeavor side of things, he's one of the quickest guys here. He's one of the most productive and acclaimed. So you know that he's got the pace, you know he's got the talent. I know he can't always put the practice time he needs into this series, but when he does, it pays off in strides. Of course, he qualified third, so it would make sense that he has third place pace, and he continues to find time on Trevor Anderson. Even since we went to this shot on the end of his nose cone, we have seen a considerable amount of time made up here by the number 7 car. So as he comes through the turn 7 hairpin, maybe a lucky turn considering his car number, he gets a better run there as well on Trevor Anderson than the 25 car did. So he's finding time, looking for his second podium of the year, and best of luck to him in regards to chasing down Trevor Anderson, because you always like to see some good racing here. But Trevor Anderson, always a quick driver, always very well spoken in his own right. He was my teammate for the Daytona 24 Hours this year, so I know him quite well. I know his consistency even at the late hours of the night. It's semi-late, I think, although I think he comes from a different time zone, so maybe it's a little bit earlier in the evening than it is for us on the East Coast. But regardless, he is a guy that's very calm and composed, and I know he's not necessarily going to try to run away here from Justin Lula, because Justin has, well, frankly, a ton of pace. He's really quick here right now. But I think Trevor Anderson's just going to be chill. He's going to try to do his thing, and if Justin can make the move, great. But if he can't, there are very few guys harder to defend from, or to the other thing, harder to pass than the 25 car of Trevor Anderson. Looking elsewhere in the field, though, just keep an eye on the track map to see who is closest to their fellow drivers on track. Let's go to Tanner Dignard there in the 55 car as he comes through the final turn number 10 hairpin. Jack Hillier has taken over the 13th spot from Max Preston, as Max left a little ways ago, and since then Jack has made up the laps necessary to take 13th. But here's Tanner Dignard until the battle for third forms up. Let's keep an eye on him, because Tanner's had an interesting season so far. He was a guy that early on in the year was kind of quiet in the championship. I mean, he had some good results, but he's certainly coming to his own lately. I mean, at the Iowa Raceway last week, he looked like somebody who could compete for the win. He looked like legitimately, cautions or otherwise, he had the pace, he had the ability to drive in traffic of a series veteran, somebody that's had an experience of winning many races in multiple seasons. But really, he's newer to the series than most other guys in the driver lineup. So the fact that he's been able to be such a quick learner and pick up that pace over the course of the year is something we've seen from only a couple of guys like Andrew Bedrosian, who is second in the championship. So certainly harder to compliment a guy more with a comparison than that. So Tanner Dignard's had a great couple races in the last couple weeks. Rich Foligno, though, will pass Tim Salvatore for position as Tim Salvatore becomes the first lead lap car into the pits in the number 91. Haven't really talked much about fuel cycles, but I would think, probably 45, 50 laps reasonably on a fuel cycle here at Tsukuba. So a little bit earlier in the stint, but if he wants to kind of, budget his pit stops like that and pit now, stay on the lead lap and continue from there, decent strategy. Though he will go a lap down, becomes the first driver to lead the lap, a lap down, I should say, from the lead lap, as both Logan and Andrew pass him for position. But I mean, hey, if it's a strategy call he thinks will work, more power to him. Always better to try to get them out of the way sooner rather than later. But the cold tires, always something you got to keep in mind. And for now, Tim is going to have to wait for Marshall Crocker to head by. Now he can get back on track. But Tim Salvatore becomes one of many to have troubles in that turn 5 hairpin in tonight's race. It's been giving guys trouble all week, really. Even in the practice races, I know it was a common spot of trouble. So man, Tsukuba's hairpins, they can be really tricky when it comes to getting back onto the gas. It's an element of racing that maybe we haven't really touched in the rest of our season. We've gone to a lot of tracks with high-speed corners rather than something a little bit more technical like the hairpin-filled Tsukuba Circuit. So maybe testing some different elements of the driver's skills, and it's fun to see how guys are able to adjust to that. Again, I talked about the karting side of things, but truly the karting mentality does come into play here at this track, because karting is so much about throttle control, getting the hands moving. Always staying active rather than, the long sweeping corners of other forms of racing. So maybe those skills are coming in handy. Justin Lulick, a very large karting background in his own right, but he's running a variety of other series as well. Not sure about Trevor Anderson's experience in real life racing. I don't think he was a karting driver. He's American. He comes from our friends south of the border here, from our Ontario karting scene that a lot of the guys in this series come from. So maybe a different skill set for him, but whatever his skill set is, it's keeping him in third for the time being. You see out the gearbox of Trevor Anderson just how close the number 7 car gets. Peeked up the inside there into the final hairpin, but is going to hold off the move for now. So He's just waiting. I feel like Justin's just picking his moments, waiting for a better opportunity where, you know, he doesn't have to worry about the possibility of taking himself out of this race. I know the same way that Andrew Bedrosian has. I think Justin Luke has definitely matured as a driver over the course of this year, maybe thinks about his moves a little bit more long term. And it's paid off for Andrew. It's what's keeping him in the championship battle there, very close to Logan Pacza in second. And I think it might be what Justin Luke needs to get himself his second podium of the year right now. Still in the slipstream, though, but both guys are going to have to pass Jack Hilliard, the lap car in the number 18 here. And they will, so Jack's going to head to the outside. Always does a great job of letting guys have the track room. That's Caleb Campbell. Also lets them by, but perhaps not in the manner he would have anticipated. The number 11 car now getting back up to speed. Going to do a quick flick turn to get back going as he comes down towards turn number 6. Not sure what happened to him. If I had to guess, I would say it was the same situation. Guys just kind of overcooking it on corner exit and just sending it around through turn number 5. I would go to the replay, but again, we got to keep an eye on this battle. That's Tim Salvatore in the background as they go by in the number 91 car. He's got some considerable damage to his rear end. You see the tires running almost diagonal to the track. He's got to make sure he stays off the racing line there. But he gets to pit entrance. You got to think his wheel is turned about 50 degrees to the right, and it is. You can see it's very off-center, so something went wrong there for that number 91 car. Maybe hit a wall, maybe hit another car. Whatever it may be, he is having trouble there getting back to the pit box, but he's done a great job. Good job by Tim Salvatore to keep that car moving, even with its considerably hurt condition. So let's very quickly go back as quick as we can. Go check out what happened to him. It looked like he'd been driving for a fairly long time. This is the exit to turn number 7. The other hairpin, turn number 8, I should say, the other hairpin, rather than the very troublesome turn 5. Exact same situation that a couple of guys have had, just overcooks it a little bit on corner exit, bounces a tire there off the outside wall, and that is enough to cripple it to the point of making it very hard to drive. So he will have to make a recovery drive in the number 91 car. But if anybody can do it, again, I think Tim is one of those types. David Pacza, as a result of Marshall Crocker coming to the pits, has moved up to 7th. Carl Drunke coming to the pits, I should say. So Carl Drunke there in the 38 car. He started 9th, back in 9th, but he made up a bunch of spots there before his pit cycle. So you got to think once we cycle everybody out through the pits, he will be a little ways further up in the race order than he currently sits. But regardless, Carl Drunke, who since Indianapolis has had a good season, but just hasn't been able to quite replicate that top of the line success, this might be his opportunity. He's always quick in the practices, so we know he's got the pace, as long as he can carry it over to beat a couple of the guys that maybe don't come out to the practices. I know Max Preston usually practices in his own time, same with Justin Luke, although Max has come out to quite a few practice races, I should say. So it can be tough to try to skid out your competition in advance. It's a completely different ball game every week for any of these drivers once you get to the real race on Fridays. So Carl Drunke, though, doing his best to work with it, and once the pit cycle out, he should be back on the lead lap. For now, though, this is the battle once again for the third position, the final podium spot here between Trevor Anderson and Justin Lulick right as we hit the halfway point in tonight's race as we cross the line for lap 35 last time by. Justin Lulick, I think it was, that checked up a little bit there. You can never tell with the tire smoke. Sometimes in iRacing it can be a little bit delayed, and that was the case right there. So Trevor Anderson will continue his charge away from Justin Lulick. Feels like every time Justin gets close here through this inner hairpin section, Trevor is really quick through turn 10 and is able to find time. Justin's a little bit tighter there, which means Trevor gets the wider runoff. Very key if he wants to get a good run here down this very long backstretch up to the turn 10 hairpin. It's very important to get a good run there because obviously with the slipstream, you get a heavy toe that can pull you towards the car in front. And if you don't get a good run off the last corner, your lesser momentum off of turn number 8 combined with the slipstream can be enough to give up that spot. So impressive work by Trevor Anderson. Defensive driving doesn't always mean blocking. Sometimes it can just mean really good runs off of corners that can defend from the slipstream. And that's what the 25 has done to this point. Back up to Logan Pacza now, who currently sits about a second and a half clear of Andrew Bedrosian. I think Andrew's coming into the pits, or if not, he had some struggles there in the last half of that lap. Let's keep an eye on the lap time per lap. Logan running a 50.7, his first in a couple laps. What did Andrew run? Ran 3.5 tenths slower, so certainly a 51 flat, not a bad time. That would have put you third in qualifying. Well, second if you don't count Andrew Bedrosian himself, but it may not be enough to keep up to Logan in the short term. Logan Pacza is your championship leader for a reason. So Andrew going to do his very best to find a little bit more time to make up that gap. But if anybody can do it, as always, I'm sure it could be Andrew. Justin Lulick coming into the pits as we speak, and there's Tanner Digner in the background just dipping into the pit lane. So very weird pit lane shot. I don't know why they show up from that far away. So we're going to go back to our old camera. Both Justin Lulick and Tanner Digner come into the pits, which means Rich Foligno will move back up into 4th. The recovery drive from moving all the way down to 7th there, and his spin in corner number 8 after sitting 3rd previous. He's bounced back all the way up to 4th. We'll see if Tanner Dignard will come out in a semi-considerable pace. He has, so he has pulled out ahead of David Pacza and Marshall Crocker, so he will stay 6th provisionally. Until Logan Pacza and Andrew Bedrosian pit, looks like we're going to have 5 guys on the lead lap. Justin Lewick as well is sitting just back at that 51-second mark, so not too far ahead of the 2 leaders, but he was running the 3rd fastest laps of anybody, sat 3rd in qualifying, so he's definitely the kind of guy that could hold it off just long enough to get Logan and Andrew to pit. We're just going to take a very quick break, ladies and gentlemen. We're just going to walk away. I just got to check a message, and then we will be right back in just a moment as we wait for Logan and Andrew to make their pit stops. David Pacza, I think a little bit further back on track, has had troubles. I think he's gone around in turn number 8. He hits the inside wall, has some damage, so we're going to keep the camera on him, but let's just go back to a brief commercial break, though we're going to keep it on this shot. Sorry about that, we're back after a very short break. David Pacza, as he exits the pits back into turn number 1, had some brief troubles there as he saw that incident in the turn number 8 hairpin, took damage off his right side and had to come into the pits to repair. Everybody does get 2 quick repairs, so not too costly to have to use it to get back through the field, but for the time being, Andrew Bedrosian, who I believe did just come into the pits, I missed it with having to deal with that, but yes, he did just pit that last time by, so he now sits 3rd. Trevor Anderson will move up to 2nd provisionally, but of course you do have to pit at some point throughout tonight's race, and Trevor is as human as any driver in the field, so he will need to bring that car in for pit service, which will put him back down into 3rd provisionally. But that is interesting. It kind of gives you a better idea of what the pit cycles are like here at Tsukuba, assuming it was, 27 seconds, which I'd imagine based on where Andrew funneled out, meaning that, well, Trevor Anderson may not be as clear of Justin Lewick as I'd assumed. Maybe Justin Lewick making up time on those new tires, maybe can perform the undercut on Trevor Anderson, who does now pit as we speak. So in comes the 25 car. Andrew Bedrosian will take back 2nd place, still waiting on your race leader, Logan Pacza, to come into the pits. But for the time being, just keeping an eye on the rest of the drivers. Well, an exciting opportunity, as you guys saw in the comments there, as we wait for Trevor Anderson's pit service to finish up. We might have Max Preston, series driver, and a long-term guy that I've known through various racing commitments, and always a great speaker, and I'm sure he'll be a pleasure to have back in the commentary booth, so we'll see if we can get Max Preston in just a moment. It would be great to have a co-commentator preview for next week, certainly a very different style of commentary that it requires, so it'll be good to have the practice for next week with Jack Hillier. But for now, Trevor has returned to the track just in front of Justin Lewick, so right as Max may appear in the booth, we've got a great battle for 3rd going on. And what a race so far to this point. I mean, on lap 42, there's not a ton of time left, but we've got a number of drivers a lap down, at least until Logan Pacza comes in, that are doing their very best to take more valuable points towards the end of the season in their run for the championship. And Max Preston, absolute shame that he had, it would seem, VR troubles and tech issues on his end. That mean he is going to come away tonight with a 14th. He will get his drop race, though. I believe he's made it to enough races to still cash one of those in. But late in the season, that just increases the chances for drivers like Logan Pacza and Andrew Bedrosian, who appear to be having good nights as any. No considerable troubles for either the 16 or the 5 car, both of whom are battling for the championship. What a send by Justin Lewick. Holy crap. That was quite the move there in turn number 5. He just sent it underneath. Wow. I'm almost amazed that wasn't a track limits violation, but it looks like he got away scot-free from it. And he will continue on. We got to see that again. What in the world? That was one of the crazier passes I've ever seen. Justin Lewick got kind of NASCAR on that one. He just said, okay, well, I've had enough of waiting around for you. Trevor Anderson is not the kind of guy who's going to make a mistake, so this is Justin Lewick up the inside. Whoa, we're going to throw it in there. Wow, got the banking to shoot him around. That was quite the move. I as a race director, I'm kind of in a tough spot there, because that was an aggressive send there. Oh, we go back live, and he's got around in turn number 10. Oh, we got to go to another replay. The second Justin Lewick replay very quick, so as soon as he makes that great move there, all of a sudden we have troubles on his end as he comes through turn number 10. So he is well clear of Trevor Anderson at this point. Justin Lewick is smooth sailing, holding down that new third spot. Oh, maybe just got a little bit nervous, a little bit unfocused after making that move, and just tapped the inside curb. Whatever it was, wasn't too costly. He gets back up to speed and passed by Tanner Dignard. So in essence, 5th provisionally. But yeah, it's hard to drive under pressure, especially after making a move as great as that. Not sure if he had somebody else with the broadcast up in the background and maybe heard how excited I was, but it was an unfortunate series of events there for Justin, all things considered, as he drops back down to 5th. And I kind of alluded to that earlier. In your attempt to get one spot, you might lose another, and it's a trade-off that you make as a driver to try to take those chances and go for every spot you can. But I mean, all of us drivers are aggressive beings at the end of the day. We all want to take any spot we can get, and well, Justin made the sacrifice, got the move done. But maybe, I don't know, maybe the lockup that he had there in turn number 5 to get the car woed up in time, maybe that was all it took to give the back end some troubles coming through turn number 10. Still keeping an eye on Max Preston, so feel free to hop in the Discord channel whenever you'd like, and I will pull you into the booth. But for now, still keeping an eye on this battle that now becomes for 4th between Justin Lewick and Tanner Dignard. Tanner Dignard, who would be, I'd imagine, super happy with a 4th spot, but he has come so close to a podium so many times recently. It would be really great on his part to see the 55 car in a proper podium position. Get his first interview of the season. Justin Lewick, though, going to do his very best to make that very tricky. Right on the back end of the number 55 car. He's going to go for another big send again. Justin Lewick is going to burn these front tires out in order to get that thing woed up into the corner for some of these passes he's trying to make. He is not slowing up at all. He's going to try it again. He gets the corner. He gets it through the corner. What a move! It's working for him. Like it's legal. He's avoiding the inside curbing, but what a send. Like, amazed the car is putting up with that, because I would have thought with those tires that he has to this point, they would just be getting tired. Kind of curious to see as he walks up again. Yeah, he's losing tire grip. I'm wondering if Tanner's going to try the same send, because, I mean, Trevor didn't really get time to answer back when it happened to him when Justin made that move through the turn 5 hairpin. He just said, okay, well, I'll try to get that spot back, and as soon as he probably said that, Justin went around in turn 10, so didn't really get a ton of time to respond. Maybe Tanner Dignard will, though. And Justin is burning up those tires. I can guarantee it. I don't have like a live tire status tracker in these broadcast graphics, but if I had to make an assumption, I'd say that it'll be easier said than done to try to keep that thing on the road. Because, man, if you burn tires up too much here at Tsukuba, a track that's basically just constant hard braking zones, it can give you some troubles. But man, second great move there for the number 7 car, and he continues chugging along. Still keeping an eye out though for Max Preston. Still don't see in the booth there, but yeah, if you hop in, still plenty of race left to call, and always happy to have somebody else here with me. Keeping an eye out throughout the field though, unless this battle redevelops, which Justin Lewick continues to try to not make it so. He is pulling away quite comfortably from Tanner Dignard this last couple laps. So with just under 20 laps to go, we continue to wait for Logan Pacza, our race leader. He is yet to come into the pits, and this is about the limits of what I think you could do in a tank of fuel. So he's going to have to come in eventually. I would have thought you would come in earlier rather than later to try to even your tire stints out. You know, you don't want to be too late onto a set of tires, finally realize they're going on you, and as soon as you do, you put yourself around. Logan's a composed guy, though. I'd imagine he's probably planned this out. I assume he does practice in his own time, because usually he's able to make it out to the practice races, but doesn't always come out for both. I know Andrew is always there. He's sometimes, well, this week I didn't even make it on Monday, so he was there more than I was. He's always put in plenty of time and plenty of practice laps, so I get plenty of experience to see what he's doing, but Logan, I'm just not quite as familiar with his strategy, so we'll see what his fuel plan is long term. Elsewhere throughout the field, we saw Rich Foligno make it all the way back up to 4th just a moment ago with the fuel cycles, but since then, once he had to pit, he did drop back a couple spots. But keep an eye on the track map, because that 6 dot keeps getting closer to the dots in front. The 5 dot is Tanner Dignard, the 4 dot is Justin Lewick, and though it is a considerable amount of time to make up, 20 laps is a long time here at Tsukuba, though I guess technically it is about 17, 18 minutes. But hey, sometimes you don't need a ton of time or some sort of grand plan. Sometimes you just have to be fast. And Rich Foligno, a guy that has multiple top fives this season, he's had some terrible luck in some races. But you saw how quick he was at our last road course at Oulton Park, getting a 4th. I'd imagine this could be a similar situation, provided he's able to put himself in those mid 51 second per lap range that Logan and Andrew are, which I'm not sure if he is. But let's put up something a little bit different. I don't always put something up in this timing tower other than the actual gap to the car in front. I'm sorry, the gap to the leader, I should say, traditionally. But there is the last lap time run by each driver on track. So Logan Pacza with a 50.7 last time by sets the pace of the field. Nobody ran a quicker lap than that, though Andrew Bedrosian did just run a lap just under a 10th behind. So the top two running pretty considerable lap times up there at the top of the field. But after that, Trevor Anderson, Justin Lulick, Tanner Dignard all running in the mid-51s, though Tanner actually ran a quicker lap last time by, which is easier to see, so we'll have to keep an extra eye on that battle. Karl Dronke was slightly quicker than Rich Foligno there, though both of them running in the mid to high 51-second range. Then Marshall Crocker, David Pacza, Caleb Campbell, and Manuel Guerra, your final 4 drivers left in tonight's race, all running in the 52s, usually in the low end. Logan Pacza then runs a 50.9 second lap that last time by, which again isn't bad, certainly. It's not like that's a time that'll make it too tough for him to continue holding his lead and prevent Andrew from doing the undercut on him, but man, you got to think if he is going to lose that pace, he would probably want to think about tires again, but he's 19 laps away from the finish next time by. There's not much lap time left to go, so maybe if you can plan your fuel a little bit better, you can try to budget your time in the pits, because the less fuel you need to take, the less time you have to spend on pit lane, and in that way he can guarantee his way to avoid the undercut, because he can take a pit stop about a second faster than Andrew did, and Logan, I should say, is not a guy that makes mistakes on pit stops. So let's go to the interval. I just mentioned it a second ago, but it's not one I often use. There is the gap between drivers everywhere on track, excluding being a lap down. I should really use that more. I had no idea that was what that did. So look at us discovering things here in round 11 of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series. That's a little helpful one. So that shows you, just for context, the gap between every driver on track next to the driver in front of them. So the gap that I usually show, that is in reference to, your race leader, who is currently Logan Pacza, and this is in reference to the car in front. So Andrew would be 29 seconds back of Logan, Trevor would be 31 seconds back of Andrew, meaning he's 60 back if you do the math of Logan, and so on and so forth. Meaning Tanner Dignard sits 1.7 seconds behind Justin Lulick, so that is the closest battle on track. Able to throw up the lap times per lap. Once again, Tanner Dignard was 0.02 of a second faster on lap 48, but besides that, Justin Lulick has had his number in terms of per lap pace. So Justin Lulick looks like he's going to be able to comfortably hold on to that number 4 spot, provided he's able to keep the back end under him through corners and hairpins like this. 17 laps to go in tonight's race. We're still waiting on your race leader, Mr. Logan Pacza, to come into the pits, but until that happens, we're going to go to a very quick break. We're going to go on board with Logan Pacza, because I often feel bad in these races that when he has a ton of success and really just doesn't make any mistakes, we don't talk about him enough, so we're going to keep it tuned on him for just a moment. We're going to go to a quick commentary break. Well, for now, for the 11th round of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season, I am, as always, Marshall Crocker. We're going to go on board with Logan Pacza, and we will be back in just a moment. Well, right as I alluded to the fact that Logan would be having to pit soon, he pits almost immediately after I leave. So, with 15 laps to go now in tonight's race at Tsukuba, Logan Pacza has made his final pit stop, and with the pit cycle, he is now 9 seconds clear of Andrew Bedrosian. He is having a comfortable race as Mr. Logan Pacza, 6 wins to this point in the season. He's had an incredible championship, and we're getting towards the end of the year. Again, 4 races to go after tonight's event at Tsukuba, so not much time left for the rest of the field. And with performances like this, Logan is going to make it tough on everybody else. Still keeping an eye on Max Preston, though. Still hasn't hopped in yet. So, Max, if you're still out there, still in the comments, there is still a spot for you whenever you'd like. But for now, let's look elsewhere in the field. We're going to put the interval back up because that was really helpful. Really glad I found that. And, wow, that looks like a gap, honestly, because everybody is sitting just about 12 seconds apart in the midfield and about 5 seconds apart otherwise. So, maybe a good opportunity while we wait for more things to happen on track. We'll go very briefly to maybe Trevor Anderson, who currently sits in the final podium spot as we speak. But let's talk about very quickly your rest of the season going forward. So before we start with the actual racing side of things and all of the things like that, first of all, let's talk about your co-commentator for next week, Jack Hillier. It'll be a pleasure to have him in the booth at Silverstone, the next round on this season's calendar. That'll be for round number 12. So only 4 races to go in this season of our series. So Silverstone next week, the legacy version. I don't like the changes they made to the new ones, and it costs money, so we didn't do that. We did the old 2008 version, which I think is a more forgiving layout and certainly more fun for these cars. So Jack will be co-commentating alongside me for that race. Haven't figured out a plan for the rest of the year besides that, so we'll see if we work together going forward after that point. We'll see if he's interested, and we'll see if he has the itch to get back on track after missing a week next week. But besides that, so that's round number 12 at Silverstone. Then round number 13, we go to Spa-Francorchamps. We've run it in every series I've ever run. We ran it in the Cars and Computers series, both seasons 1 and 2. And we are running it now in the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing series for round number 13. The unlucky, or I guess lucky by your definition, number 13. Very fitting for a track that is certainly tricky. Certainly can provide its troubles for drivers. We're going to keep an eye on Carl Dronke, who appears to be kind of losing time on track ahead to Rich Foligno. Or sorry, the other way around. He's actually gaining time on Rich Foligno, so we'll keep an eye on the number 99 car. But yeah, so round number 13, we go to Spa-Francorchamps, one of the longer tracks in the season. Only 30 laps when you go there. So remember last week in Iowa, we had as many as 175 laps because it was a track that took 20 seconds. But Spa is a very, very long track, very hard to practice because of how many corners you have to get down and how tricky it can be to try to get a methodical pattern going when it takes so long to get to each corner. So Spa will be a tough one. The second to last road course in the season, the final one before our final oval, and it's one that'll test drivers. It's one that I can't wait to see if Logan and Andrew have a good battle at, because it's one that drivers know very well. It's one that I think they'll both know in a similar manner, and I can't wait to see what kind of battle we get for the win there. That'll be a great race. Round 14, though, brings us to our final oval of the season, another night race, this time at an oval called Gateway. It's lesser known than a lot of other ovals in the service. I know Iowa can be kind of an obscure pick, but Gateway even more so. It's very interesting because it's a mid-sized oval, about a mile in length. Rich got a little bit wide there through the corner. That'll give Carl Dronke even more time to catch up, and a lock-up as well. Maybe Rich has something broken on that number 99 car, but whatever it is, Carl is gaining time. We'll keep an eye on the number 38 car. But yeah, so in regards to round number 14 at Gateway, the second to last of the year, the final oval, hopefully we'll get part-time driver Mr. Michael Krobach back to see if he can throw his name in the hat for his second win of the year at the ovals. But Gateway is very interesting. It's about a mile in length, 2 different sized corners. So it's a traditional oval in the sense that it's 4 corners like usual, not 3 like a track like Pocono. But the 2 corners are very different sizes in length. One is very tight and requires braking. One is very wide and doesn't require braking. So it's a very interesting oval. It's a very interesting shape, and hopefully it'll make for some good racing. And it will be another night race. I really like the night aesthetic from last week, and we'll be able to carry that into round number 14 at Gateway. But after that, we have the final round of our season. Let's go to Marshall Crocker, who has just dropped into the pits in the number 15 car. He currently sits 8th, might drop that spot to David Pacza, and he will. So David Pacza will pass him on the left side there for 8th position. And Marshall Crocker will have to recover if he wants to make up gap. Make up gap. What did I just say? Make up ground, I should say. He's not going to lose the spot, though, to Caleb Campbell, who sits a couple corners behind. So Marshall Crocker will return to the track in 9th. Keep an eye, though, on Carl Dronke, still making up ground as we speak to Rich Foligno. But yes, the final round of our season will take us to Laguna Seca. It's a track that well, the drivers know very well because it's one of objectively the best in the world. And it's one that those of you that have watched the last 2 seasons of the Carts to Computer series that I used to run will also know quite well, as we went there in both seasons of that series. Once for our, I think, 13th round of, 12th round of what was a 14-round season. And we went to it, I think, the second ever race that I ever put on professionally. We had Matt Clark there, who now is the Canadian Formula 4 champion. Has gone on to do all sorts of things. It was Formula 1600 or something. It's not Formula 4, but that's not important. It is, just not for me to mention. Yeah, he was in the series back in the day. We had all sorts of different drivers back at the time, so if you ever want to watch that, it's on the series playlist. Feel free to go back and watch our other 2 races at Laguna Seca, but it's our season finale for a reason. It's a great track, it's a great venue, and it's one that I think will provide some great action, and that is a double points race. So, same way as Indianapolis, at the end of the season, just because you're maybe 50 points back doesn't mean you're out of contention. That race is going to have big stakes, and what better location to round off the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series calendar than at a place, I guess, that really doesn't have snow at all. It's in the middle of a desert in California, which I guess is kind of fitting as a close to the series. But what has happened to Rich Foligno? I'm really confused because now Carl's made up about half a second in the last couple laps. He's still making up time to Rich, and now he's going to have the slipstream down the backstretch to turn number 10. So, what is this graph? I have another graphic that I think might be helpful. Oh, this is time per sector. This is actually kind of a helpful one. We'll keep this up. Carl Drunky now has brought the gap within half a tenth. Rich has some steering issues. I don't know what it is. Maybe some damage to one of his wing end plates. But whatever it is, he is losing time. Carl's going to go around the outside through turn number 1. Side by side, the battle for 6. Carl will clear him cleanly. Carl Drunky puts himself into 6th. And now he's going to make a charge up through the field. He's 24 seconds back at Tanner Dignard in 5th. So a top 5 seems relatively out of the equation. But he's still got to hold off Rich Foligno. If that damage was just temporary, maybe it's a tire thing, maybe it's a long-term strategy call for fuel. Whatever it may be, it has cost Rich the 6th spot, and he will now drop back to still a very respectable 7th. Looking elsewhere throughout the field, Trevor Anderson is still holding on to his podium spot. Has become to 7 laps to go last time by. It'll be 6 once Logan comes by the stripe for the next lap. So not much time left for Trevor, and man, he's got 1 win to his name this season. He won the first half of the Detroit doubleheader, and then he scored a 2nd in the other race. And I think he had a 3rd in a race at Mossport earlier this season. So he's no stranger to the podium, but it's been a little while since Detroit. So it's good to see a recovery here from Trevor Anderson. He sits only 3 seconds clear, though, of Justin Lulick. So don't count out the number 7 car, who overall has had better pace. But, well, since Justin made the move a little bit earlier in the race, he had that mistake through the turn number 8 hairpin that cost him a considerable amount of time and meant that, well, making up all that time to Trevor Anderson was easier said than done. But yeah, Trevor sits 4th in points currently, with Max Preston, who, again, terrible luck for him to have his race end the way that it did, is going to lose some points in the championship. And with that gap being as close as it was, I think it was only 21 points or something between those two, I think Trevor will move up to 3rd in points, and he's not going to beat either of his other 2 championship adversaries. Logan Pacza and Andrew Bedrosian are 1st and 2nd in points, and are in turn 1st and 2nd in tonight's race. But yeah, it's still not a bad gap for the rest of the year going forward. I think he'll move within about maybe 60 points of Logan, which isn't too bad at all. So if Trevor can just rattle off some great races, probably needs a couple wins late in the season. But this is a great performance for him tonight. Now 5 laps to go as Logan crosses the line this next time by. Logan actually sits right in front of Justin Lulick, who is trying to catch up to Trevor Anderson. I don't think Justin will be able to pass Logan Pacza. As quick as Justin's been, though he did qualify 3rd, well, Logan is he's a race leader by 9 seconds over Andrew Bedrosian for a reason. He has just been so quick tonight, and as quick as Andrew's been, Logan has just has found a way to be even quicker. And Justin, he said a little slip up there through turn number 5 on his way to turn number 6, got in the grass on the outside a little bit and lost a little bit of time. So the question of will Logan hold up Justin Lulick is now very nonsensical, because he's gained about 2 or 3 seconds ahead of Justin Lulick. Across the line this time, now it'll be 4 laps to go for Logan Pacza to the finish. As I just mentioned, 9.5 seconds clear of Andrew Bedrosian. Andrew's had an incredible race to this point. He hasn't made any mistakes, but you need more than that if you're going to beat our championship leader, Logan Pacza. He's the benchmark for a reason. And I gave Michael the nickname the Oval Master previously. I gave Andrew captain consistency in the last season of the Carts to Computers series. So I'm going to call Logan Mr. Benchmark for the rest of the season. We'll see if that catches on. We'll see if he hates it in the interviews. But for now, just no mistakes from the number 16 car. He is just pulling away. Now 10 seconds clear of Andrew Bedrosian. Kind of curious to see if him passing Trevor Anderson will cause some chaos here. Only 3 laps to go, so might not even catch him. But that would throw what the British call a spanner in the works on Trevor Anderson's pursuit to hold down 3rd place. So obviously, as the series director, I would always hope for consistency and purity rather than chaos. But well, the broadcaster part of me, and maybe you guys at home, probably wants to see another battle for the final podium spot. 3 laps to go, though, for Logan Pacza as he comes by this time, and I just mentioned him, but I feel bad that I barely mentioned Andrew Bedrosian at all throughout tonight's race. Andrew, man, the 5 car just does everything he can at every race throughout the season. I think he leads in led laps overall, but it's very unusual to see that he, I think, has more led laps than Logan, but Logan has won, well, I don't want to jinx him, but with 3 laps to go, perhaps 7 races to Andrew's 1. So something that's happening there. Logan just appears to have that late race pace that means he can capitalize. He did so last week at Iowa. Andrew came so close, made up a bunch of time in the last lap of that 175 lap race, but just was not enough for him to get that win, and tonight he's going to come just short once again. But 4 races to go in the season. He's got time. If Andrew can just rattle off some wins that he's had every right to so many times this season, then his year might not be over in that quest for his championship. We've never had a repeat victor in one of my series in terms of the championship back-to-back, though I guess we've only run 2, so I guess it's not quite the rule yet. But Andrew, if he can do it, might become the 3rd different driver. He's just got to have a couple of really good weeks. But now 2 laps to go, of maybe even a lap and a half, as Logan sits about midway through the lap right now, right behind the number 3 car, number 3 in the race order of Trevor Anderson. Trevor trying not to go lap down. If Logan does lap him, there would only be 2 cars in the lead lap tonight, something we haven't seen in this series in quite a while. Logan, though, he's getting closer and closer. He's going to come through turn number 10 one more time after this lap. A white flag comes out as we speak, so Trevor Anderson, poor guy, if he doesn't get lapped, he's got a whole another lap to do unnecessarily if he doesn't get lapped, meaning he does have to finish lap 70. But Logan, just a couple more corners. He's probably going to let Trevor get a little bit of room. The last thing you want is Trevor to slip up, make a mistake, and cause Logan to get into him. We've seen it a couple times, including on the very first lap here in the turn number 5 hairpin, but since the very beginning, no issues for anybody. We only had 1 caution there at the very start, and since then, it's been a clean race. Only Tim Salvatore and Jack Hillier left, I think, as a result of race incidents, and Max Preston as a result of VR issues, as he said. It's a shame that unless he hops in here at the very end for interviews, looks like we won't have had Max Preston here in the booth, so I'm really sorry, Max, that I missed the opportunity there, but we have to go back to the race. Logan Pacza down for the final time through the backstretch, through turn number 10, right behind Trevor Anderson, who will come home in 3rd. For the 7th time this year, 2nd week in a row, Logan is making it hard to take away that championship. The 16-car wins at Tsukuba Circuit for round number 11 of the season. Congratulations to Logan Pacza as he comes home for the 7th time this year in the top spot. But Andrew Bedrosian, he'll take 2nd. It was a great performance for him and did, again, everything he possibly could. Justin Lillick will come home 4th. Tanner Dignard will come home 5th. Rich Foligno right at the very end, I think, will come home 5th. He is going to get 6th. Carl Dronke was off the pace there for a moment. Has not crossed the line yet. So Rich Foligno, very late in the event. Probably not the 3rd place he wanted as he was defending earlier. He was in 3rd for a considerable portion of the first stint of the race. But he has recovered to 6th, which in my books is not a bad performance through the final turn. Rich Foligno will take home the 6th spot. The 7th spot for Carl Dronke. David Pacza in 8th. Marshall Crocker will take home 9th. Caleb Campbell will round out your top 10, then Manuel Guerra has just left the session in 11th. All that being said, though, we have got a championship, not a championship yet, but we got a race to celebrate for your championship leader. Let's get up the proper graphics necessary. He's already doing his donuts. Slow down, Logan. We need to put up the proper graphic. There we go. And I forgot we don't have the footage mapped. Well, that's fine, because Logan Pacza, you don't need the music. You know who won. Logan Pacza is your race winner tonight. Congratulations to the 16 car. He's done it a couple times this season. Maybe a couple is underselling him, but he's done it everywhere. Let's get one more shot of those donuts. I don't want to cut them short. There we go. We got to get the proper shot. We'll get some music in here. We'll do a makeshift presentation for him. Well, maybe we'll do them in slow-mo. We never do that. That would be cool. There we go. Let's get the good shot and background music. There we go. So Logan Pacza, 7th time this year. Okay, this is going a little bit slow. There we go. Well, what a race. Only 1 caution. Probably the most caution-free endeavor we've had all season in terms of how tricky the track was, maybe how many incidents we had, but guys always seem to recover. Nobody left the race for a considerable period of time, and in turn, we got a pretty good final order. Everybody got to the end with a clean car in clean conditions, and well, you could argue then that was that this race was probably the most accurate representation of well, not talent, but ability here at Tsukuba and as a race director, and who wants to see fair racing, that is what you like to see. But Logan Pacza, there is the slow motion donut shot. Wish we could put this up for the interview, but unfortunately we have a banner for that I promise will show up better than the one that just didn't. Win number 7 this season. He's going to extend his championship points lead. He was already ahead by about 25, maybe 30 points. This win over Andrew, it depends on bonus points as well, who had how many laps. I know Logan will take the most laps, but maybe Andrew got the fastest lap. So bonus points considered, probably going to extend that lead to about 35 points, but with the double points race at Laguna to round off the year and a couple more races before that, that still leaves Andrew with plenty of time to make up that gap. Well, your 3 podium finishers are already in the Discord again. I was really sorry to Max Preston that we weren't able to get a proper interview there at the end, or well, not an interview, but to have you there in the booth. I just got a little bit busy, wasn't able to check the comments for a little bit, but well, hopefully, Max, you have a great rest of your week, and the offer is extended there in the future. Maybe we can get a fancy 3-person booth going there in the future for the rest of the year once Jack hops in next week at Silverstone. That being said, though, let's put up your final race results before we go to your interviews for tonight's race. Let's pull down Logan's name. We'll put it back up in a moment, but we got to take it down for the time being. And sorry, ladies and gents, just a second. And there are your points for tonight's race. Your winner tonight for the 7th time this year, Mr. Logan Pacza in the number 16 car, beating Andrew Bedrosian by a gap of about 11 seconds. He made the what's the move called? I'm immediately forgetting. Well, he pitted later than Andrew did. So the overcut, I should call it. That's the word I was looking for. Made the overcut work to good effect. He pitted later in the race, meaning that he could run less laps and on more fuel, and meaning he could pit for a minimal amount there at the very end, meaning his pit stop was faster, and in turn he extended that lead, meaning he will come away with his 7th win of the season. Andrew Bedrosian, though, one of his many podiums, I think that'll be his 8th top 5 of the year, probably his 5th or 6th podium, comes home in 2nd, well clear of Trevor Anderson in 3rd, though he does take home his 3rd podium of the season. Great race for the 25 car. Justin Lulick sitting in 4th, had a great race in his own right. Remember that incident that he had earlier in the race in turn number 5, but had some great passes in the turn number 5 hairpin. He was doing everything he could there to get back through the field, made the move there late on Tanner Dignard, and that gave him 4th spot. Tanner Dignard rounds out the top 5, I believe gets his 4th top 5 of the season, 2nd in 2 weeks. Tanner is on a bit of a hot streak there in the 55 car. Rich Foligno sat 3rd early in the race. Some unfortunate issues for him, including that spin in the turn 8 hairpin early in the race, meant that he dropped back all the way to 8th, but was able to recover to 6th. So great race there for the number 99 car. Hopefully he can keep that momentum next week into Silverstone. Then Carl Dronke finishes 7th in the 38 car, the final driver only a single lap down. After that, David Paxton will come home 8th. Marshall Crocker will come home in 9th. Caleb Campbell will round out your top 10 after his debut podium of the season last week at Iowa. Manuel Guerra will finish in 11th. Tim Salvatore finishes 12th. Jack Hillier in 13th. And Max Preston, unfortunately with a VR tech issue on his side, will come home only 14th. And that will round off your final results for tonight's race. Now it is time for the interviews. First of all, we got to go to your 3rd place finisher in tonight's event, Mr. Trevor Anderson, for the 3rd time this season. Unfortunately, the background will not match his new paint scheme. He ran a San Diego Padres scheme that I believe he made on his own, as well as the Anaheim Ducks scheme he normally runs. So he is going to have a slightly incorrect background, but I swear it is the same Trevor Anderson. Let's pull him into the booth. Hey, Trevor, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
Yeah, I got you.
Awesome. There we go. But, hey, Trevor, it was a pleasure to watch you out there tonight. I mean, you were one of 3 drivers there on the lead lap. It looked like Logan and Andrew just had a pretty comfortable performance. They definitely had all the pace they needed to stay where they were. But you didn't have an easy race at all. I mean, Justin Lulick there was giving you some trouble there in the middle of the race. You had the pace, though, to equal him out. He had that big send there into that turn 5 hairpin. He just sent it underneath it down the inside. Were you expecting quite the battle there with Justin there mid-race? And once he made that move, were you prepared to take that spot back before he had his spin there just a couple corners later?
Yeah, I was kind of expecting something from him. I wasn't really gonna try to pulled him too tight just because I was on cold tires, and I knew that if I pushed too hard, I was probably gonna make a mistake and it wouldn't end too well. So I was kind of expecting something, and if he was gonna make a move, I would just be like, all right, go for it. I'll get him back in a couple laps, once my tires warmed up. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to, actually fight him for it. I was looking forward to that. That would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have, but definitely you probably rather it from your perspective, trying to get home with a third. Probably easier to not take the risk at all rather than go for the move there. But once he spun, it was fairly smooth sailing there. He was trying to make a comeback there late in the race, but similar to earlier in the season at Detroit Belle Isle, where you felt like once all the chaos happened around you, you were very comfortable with your pace. You did it again tonight at Tsukuba. How do you think that kind of compared to Detroit Belle Isle, two very narrow tracks? Many guys seem to have troubles with it, but you seem very comfortable. Is that style of racing something you've picked up from your experiences? And do you think those sort of tracks suit you well, these tighter, narrower, more tight turn-filled tracks?
I think they do, just because I try to be cautious, and so I end up staying out of trouble. Obviously, I'm not as fast as Logan or Andrew, but the fact that I at least stay out of trouble does seem to lend to some good finishes. And I do wish I was a little bit faster on these tight tracks. I think one of the issues I have with Tsukuba is I can't find a good solid braking point, so I feel like I'm braking a little bit earlier than I need to, just to make sure I stay safe. And so I could probably pick up a little bit of pace there, but I'd rather keep it out of the wall and finish third than run the risk of hitting the wall and maybe putting in some faster laps. But it worked out. I am excited to go to some more wide open tracks. Spa is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, these tight tracks, I think my safety does lead to some good results for sure.
Yeah, clearly it has. It's the third time we've been talking to you in a podium position in the two that we've had this season, so they're working for it. But yeah, you mentioned the more wide open tracks. It's not just Spa, though. Spa will be an absolutely great race. I can't wait for round 13. But we go to Silverstone next week, which it's the legacy version before the repave and the rework that they did in that track a few years back. So it's not exactly the current version, but it's still a very wide circuit. It's one that's more F1 style, where they don't exactly make it as tight and what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of alley-like as this. So when we head to Silverstone and Spa the next 2 weeks, you're third in the championship. I think this will move you past Max Preston for sure, but it'll be tough to chase down Logan and Andrew. You just talked about how quick they are, but you have that kind of safety ability and ability to run clean and avoid incidents that maybe they don't always have it at every race throughout the season. What's the plan the rest of the year? Are you going to kind of change that mentality if you do need to make up these points to the championship leaders? Or are you going to stick with what you're doing the next couple weeks at tracks that you seem to be, at least from your words, pretty comfortable with?
I think I'll probably try to stay pretty safe. Now, if I do end up, maybe I'm right behind Logan or right behind Andrew, I might push it a little bit harder just to try and make up those spots. And we'll see on those bigger tracks. The draft might make it so we can keep up with those guys a little bit more, and hopefully I'll have an opportunity. I'll definitely be pushing when I'm around those guys just to make sure I maybe can catch up to them in the standings. But otherwise, try to just keep it clean. Don't want any issues out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's worked for you so far. I mean, yeah, don't fix what isn't broken. But certainly, I'm hoping for a three-way battle for the championship, man. I'm hoping you can kick it into that other gear that I know you've shown a couple times this year, like at Detroit where you got your win. I'm looking for more, man. I'm hoping for a good rest of the season from you. And yeah, best of luck the next couple weeks at both Silverstone, Spa, and the rest of your calendar. For the time being, though, as we always do at the end of the interviews, is there anybody at home you want to thank, give a shout out to, and are there any sponsors you want to mention?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my cat Milkshake for staying off my lap during the race. He's on my lap now, but he was kind to me during the race. And my fiance Sloan for always hanging out with me, and the guys at the Gallatin Hockey Officials Association for letting me take the night off. We got the Montana State High School State Championship this weekend, and I took the night off reffing so I could do the race. So thankful for that. But that's all I got. So thank you, Marshall, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Awesome. Yeah, I plan on it. Thank you very much, Trevor. And yeah, best of luck with your refereeing the big game this weekend. And you've started the weekend on a high, so hopefully it continues that way for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
And that will round off your first interview of tonight with your third place finisher, Mr. Trevor Anderson, a guy that, well, he's put himself in a position to fight for the championship the rest of the year. He's third in points going forward tonight. I think he was fourth in points. He's third in the overall points, but he's fourth in the ones we count for the championship. So the graphic is mildly misleading, but now it's true. So maybe I called it and spoke it into existence in advance. Now, though, it is time for your second interview of the night. I got to adjust the audio levels because Trevor's mic is naturally a little bit quiet and Andrew's is not. So I don't want to blare all your ears with that. But now that we're done, let's pull in Mr. Andrew Bedrosian, finishing in second in tonight's race. Hey, Andrew, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
You got me?
I do indeed. Well, welcome, Andrew. It was a great race for me, man. I know that the second week in a row, you just narrowly came up behind Logan last week, about a 10th short. You were so close last time, and you come into tonight, you had all the pace in the world. From your perspective, man, you came so close. You did everything right. Just what were you lacking there to get your second win of the year?
I mean, I really wouldn't classify it as anything wrong. I mean, I was just talking with Logan and everything. I was telling him I was considering like a bump and run because I noticed that I was a lot lighter on the brakes and I could coast straight up to him, but it was too early in the race to do it. And I probably would never try to do a bump and run that early. But I mean, yeah, just try to put some qualifying laps down. Messed up the pit stop. Barely just clipped the grass. I mean, glad I kept it off the wall, so the off-roading skills paid in. But yeah, it's I mean, at the end of the day, he only really opened more of like a 10 to 15 points more on me gap, so still got many more races to go. And I mean, there's always a chance he'll finish badly, just like he did. Well, not badly, but I mean, like he did at Old. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this only put you back about 5 or well, I guess he got the polls probably 8 or 9 points. So you're still as in the championship battle as ever. And with him winning tonight, you did everything you had to keep with him in the championship. Tsukuba, a very tight circuit, very karting oriented. I was alluding to the fact that a lot of the karting guys might be able to find success tonight with some of the skills it takes from that. It's a lot about throttle control and staying ginger on the throttle on exits. Is that the kind of racing you're comfortable with? I know you didn't seem to have any issues both at the practice races this week and in the race. Those karting aspects, like as I mentioned, the throttle control and staying ginger on the gas off the corners. Is that a skill that you think you're good at? And you just mentioned your off-roading background. Is that something you think you may have learned from there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much all over the place with driving backgrounds. I mean, I've done like with rally drifting, NASCAR, those kind of like when you put all those together, it's a really diverse driving background that many people don't have. And I mean, throttle control, I mean, you have to have it regardless with like in my experience with any kind of motorsport, because you can't be gunning it's not gonna end well. So, but I mean, tonight it was a really tight circuit, hairpin after hairpin. I mean, some people will lose pace, and some people did. But yeah, it was basically, yeah, it's just such a tight circuit that some people will lose pace, and I know I definitely did. I tried to go and get the fastest lap of the race because I was on new tires, and knew that I probably wouldn't totally catch Logan to where I was like in the beginning of the race. So.
Well, all things considered, it's a good strategy to go for. Try to maximize championship points, and in the end, again, even the slightest pit mistake can put the end of your race. But you were keeping pace with his laps. You did everything you had to, man. I wouldn't be disappointed to come away from tonight with a second, especially to a driver like him. But well, the rest of the season, you only got a couple more rounds left. I mean, 4 races is a long time. You don't have a much of a championship points gap to make up, so still very much in the running there to become the 3rd different champion in a series I've put together. We go to Silverstone next week, a Formula 1 track that I know with your background, you probably have quite a bit of knowledge with that. And then to Spa, another track that's been on the Formula 1 calendar very frequently. So how familiar are you with the next 2 tracks we run at? And are you feeling confident that you can make up that gap to Logan with your knowledge of said track?
Yeah, I mean, I actually feel, or sort of found the trend that I'm a lot better with more foreign tracks than like US tracks. But I mean, for Silverstone, I know I practiced on it a lot for my like birthday race until we switched to Long Beach for it. But yeah, I'm very comfortable there. I like watched hours and hours of the race footage and stuff, so I know where to pass and where to just put pressure on people and where I can get them. Spa's a really different story, 2 very different tracks. Like Silverstone, it's really slow corners. It's very easy to underestimate them. But with Spa, long straights, and yeah, I mean, it's gonna be really difficult at throughout the rest of the season. But pretty confident I can catch Logan. I mean, I feel like I'm in basically the same position I was in last season, and hopefully can not repeat last season and don't mess up my championship. So.
Well, hopefully so, man. You did everything you had to tonight, and yeah, you got plenty of time in the racing world. 4 races is all a guy like you needs. That every week comes out with the ability to take home a win. So I'm hoping for a good battle between you two to the end of the championship. Let's hope we can have a competitive situation going into Laguna. So best of luck to you, Andrew, for the rest of the year. As usual in the interviews, this is your opportunity to give some shout-outs, a thanks to people watching at home, and any sponsors you want to mention.
Yeah, I want to thank the Bedford School, Stamos Realtors, JP West Photo. I really want to thank everybody for watching, my family and friends, and want to thank you for putting all this together, Marshall.
Awesome, thank you, Andrew. It's always a pleasure. It's been an especially fun week. I can't wait for Silverstone next week. I'll have a co-commentator alongside me with Jack, so it'll be a pleasure to have all of that going on, and hopefully you and everybody else at home, or everybody else on track, I should say, can provide just as good of a race as you did tonight. So good job today, Andrew. Best of luck with your race next week, and I'm sure I'll see you at the pre-race practices on Monday and Thursday.
Yep. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Andrew. And with that rounds off your second interview of the night with Mr. Andrew Bedrosian, a guy who, while he may lose a couple points to series leader Logan Pacza, is still very much in the championship fight. Can't wait to see what he does next week at Silverstone. Wrong Pacza and wrong graphic. There you go. That's the one we need. Mr. Logan Pacza, but to be brought into the booth, let's pull him in. Your race winner tonight, and still your championship leader coming out of Tsukuba. Hey, Logan, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
I got you, Marshall.
Awesome. Well, first of all, man, congratulations. 7th win of the season. You always find a way at a variety of different tracks. You won at our shortest oval of the season last week, and now you win at our shortest road course. First of all, just you take the pole there at the beginning. You run very comfortably throughout the race. You make the overcut work. Everything just seemed to be going right for you tonight. Tsukuba Circuit, a track that is kind of unique to iRacing. I don't know a lot of other sims that run it. How familiar were you with Tsukuba Circuit before you started practicing this week? Have you run it a lot in open wheel cars? And did it kind of come to you naturally with your abilities and skill sets you have now in this Indy Pro car thanks to this season?
Well, I think being comfortable with the car coming into learning the track was definitely helpful. I've run Tsukuba when I started iRacing in Rookie Series, Mazda and the Fentech Global Series. But other than that, I was never really very familiar with this track. So I came into this race with a fairly... I came into this race very uncertain. But we found good pace. It's a strangely unorthodox track, but it seemed to suit the car well. Yeah, I just came into this race fairly uncertain.
Right, and I mean, having as many laps as you did, you had time to figure it out. Over the course of practice, you then ran the fastest lap, a lap that I don't think any of us had touched the week before in practice. So as always, that Logan Pacza magic seemed to show up, and you carried it into the race. From the offset, I mean, Andrew was sitting fairly close behind you for most of the beginning of the event, but once you started to break away, he had some troubles in the pits, and you ran pretty much a perfect pit stop. So not many troubles in that respect. So you pulled away, you come home with a pretty commanding win, and not much to be said for tonight. But for the rest of the series going forward, I mean, we go to Silverstone next week. You have a championship to defend, just like you did in previous seasons of the Cards to Computers series. But now you do it with not only Andrew, but a guy like Trevor Anderson, who comes home with the final podium spot tonight. You have more guys in the running, and 4 very different racetracks. You go to Silverstone, Spa, Gateway, and then Laguna. Of that 4, is there any that you're particularly looking out for? Is there a track that's similar to Tsukuba, maybe you're not as practiced with, or one that you are particularly excited for? Just what does the rest of the season look like for you going forward?
I approach the rest of the season the way I've approached this entire season. We go into the weekend, we do the best with what we have. Obviously, Gateway is an uncertainty to me. I'm not the best at ovals, but I find pace is fairly irrelevant. It more comes down to your thought process, your strategy, the decisions you make, more than your driving skill, so to speak. But yeah, I'm just coming in with an open mind for the rest of the season. We'll do what we can with what we have.
And just finally, I mean, I kind of alluded there to the Cards to Computer series the last 2 seasons. In the first season, you were far and away dominant. You just dominated from race 1. I think you would clinch the championship with 3 races to go. But in season 2, you were a little bit closer. You had that great battle with Michael Krobach to the end. And I know thanks to his winning the All-Star race, he picked an oval and gave himself the advantage there at the end. But is there anything you've learned from those 2 seasons, your ability to hold the championship towards the end of the year? Are you going to approach things any differently in the first season of the Snowstorm series, or is your approach the same as before with a guy like Andrew, who is, unlike Michael, maybe more capable at no matter what track, whether it be a road course some weeks or an oval the others? Are you thinking of this series and holding down your number 1 spot any differently than you did in the Cards to Computers days?
No, same strategy again. If you focus on a certain period of time, you will find yourself continuously reserving yourself. If you focus on every single little detail that's right in front of your face, you will always get the maximum out of what you can do.
Right. Yeah, that's a very wise way to put it, yeah. I appreciate that. I think it's something that is easier said than done to approach it as a championship leader like you are, especially with somebody so close behind, to approach it with a perspective that maybe doesn't put the pressure on each week, doesn't force you to do as many practice laps as possible. But like you talked about tonight, you just come in with an open mind, even if you don't have a ton of experience. You make it work, you run the practice you have to, and you come away with the number 1 spot. So you did it again tonight, Logan. 7th win of the season. Can't wait to see how that championship mentality works for you going forward. I know Andrew's going to push you for it, but well, you've got the talent to hold them off. So best of luck, Logan, for the rest of your year. As usual, as we always do in the interviews, is there anybody you want to thank at home? Any shout-outs you want to give, or any sponsors you want to mention?
I'd like to thank everyone watching, all my family, being very supportive. I'd like to thank Special Interest Auto, and I would like to thank you, Marshall, for putting this together.
It is always a pleasure, Logan. Thank you for always making these races fun. And I mean, I will say, maybe just throw in there like a fake spin or something like that next time. I can't have much about the race to talk to you about if you just have as clean of a race and as comfortable of a situation as that. So how about next time you bump into a lap car or something like that? But for real, just have a great rest of your week, Logan. Have a great rest of your season. Looking forward to seeing what you do at Silverstone next week. And well, for the time being, have a great week, and I will see you, maybe the practice races, or maybe next Friday.
How about this, man? You put Bathurst in the schedule, and I'll take the jump for you.
Oh,
anyways,
perfect.
Marshall, I'll see you later, man.
See ya, man. Oh, and congrats on the win at Bathurst, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
See ya. Bye. And with that, we will round off your final interview of the night with race winner, Mr. Logan Pacza. Yeah, I mentioned it there at the end, but he won his Bathurst 12-hour race this week, the big endurance race that Mount Panorama, one of the toughest circuits on all of iRacing. He won with his team there and seemed to have a lot of success, dominating, I think, most of the race to my knowledge, and coming home with the first spot in a race with well more than the 14 entries we had tonight. I think the Bathurst splits are closer to 40 drivers, or 40 teams. So great performance there from Logan, and he's setting up a bit of a streak. 2 races in a row in this series, plus the Bathurst. He will be hard to stop the rest of the season. But there are your final results once again for tonight's race at Tsukuba Circuit. That'll about round off tonight's broadcast. Again, I don't have the graphic, unfortunately, but now that I've figured out that this style of displaying the race works, it makes it a lot easier on my end, and I'll be sure to have all my graphics updated for next week. That being said, though, we will see you all next Friday at Silverstone for round number 12 of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series as this championship battle continues to heat up. Congratulations to Logan Pacza, as you see there, your race winner, Andrew Bedrosian, coming home second for his 8th top 5 of the season. And finally, Trevor Anderson gets podium number 3, and he is also firing up late in the season. We'll see if he's able to make it 2 in a row in the top 3 into next week's race. For all the drivers in the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series, as well as our race director behind the scenes, Mr. Vince Ball, I am Marshall Crocker Jr., commentator, series director, and series kind of coordinator, Mr. Marshall Crocker Jr. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. We will see you all next Friday at Silverstone. And in the time being, stay safe and have a great rest of your March week.